Hi, this is Chris Simon,
Tracy, Royce,
Luke Rodvold,
and this is the Red Room. Tracy, Luke, and I jump on every week to talk about real estate, acquisition,
a lot of fix and flip,
and design,
dispositions,
Airbnbs,
financial independence, retire early.
We always have a new guest every single week.
We're going to have a lot of fun, all right?
So if you're interested in any or all of those, make sure to join us on the Red Room podcast.
And subscribe to the Red Room.
Share it with your friends or join us on the Phoenix RIA Facebook. All right, we are on the 128th Red Room for the Phoenix RIA. Cory Boatright, I did send him a text message like 30 minutes, and he said he was going to be on here. He has not jumped on yet, but trying to not be too late. It's already 8 minutes behind schedule. Tracy and I, and Luke is back from Hawaii, so he'll be jumping on soon as well. I do have a breaking moment. We've been talking about that there are 25,000 units in Phoenix for, I think, about 4 months.
Right.
We're at 24,800.
Do you think it's because they all went up in flames because of how hot it is, Chris, or are they actually being absorbed?
It could be, or people just said, you know what? I don't want my front door to open to show my house. I'm going to just keep it locked because it's so hot.
The incineration, that is July in Phoenix, yes.
June. Yeah, so we had some interesting stuff. Oil just hit the lowest spot since March, so that should bring down inflation. Which, with inflation coming down, that should bring interest rates down as well. If everything kind of follows suit, it'll be interesting. And I'll ask you, Tracy, what do you think about this? Is would a low interest rate maybe dipping down to the 5.9 like we talked about in February? Would it get sellers out and move around this heat to buy a house? What do you think?
I want to say yes. My instinct is to lean towards, well, obviously that would be the case, but we tiptoed around that. We got right around 6, and we didn't see the sort of stampede that we thought, or even the movement that we thought would have gotten people off the sidelines. I think, in what I'm seeing and hearing from agents and investors alike, is it just seems like there's a lot of other things that buyers are considering now, with the exception of a little bit of that affordability, right? It's not like prices have gone down tremendously, and it's not like they're getting great deals, but it seems like if a house is beautifully redone, buyers are like, okay, we can afford this, but it's like they're taking a little bit more to get there. And the interest rate is one of the factors, maybe not necessarily the main driver that we thought it would be.
Yeah. And I'm curious, like, I know my first 2 houses, and I'm curious that people that maybe jump in your flip school, do you ever get people that are just like, this is going to be their first purchase and they would like to save $50,000, save $60,000 on getting into that first house? Because obviously, if the interest rate, even if it's 6 or 6.25, if you're entering maybe at $100,000 less, but then you put 30, 40 in rehab, and you maybe get like a 10% equity starting out. I mean, I feel like that's kind of gets you going, right?
Yeah. I want to circumvent the direct question, because I wonder about how much watching HD TV shows has spoiled buyers' expectations. It used to be such that you would get a starter home or condo at a really inexpensive price. And I understand pricing has changed dramatically over the last decade. But you have cabinets and laminate. Mm-hmm.
Hold on. What's up, Cory?
Yeah.
My daughter emailed it to you. Should be on the top of your email. It was probably just the one in my Hotmail. Just email me at both my email accounts, because she's watching right now, and she'll email you the link. Just send me an email and she'll send it back to you. All right, bye. All right.
Investors are notorious for not being on time.
he's going to jump on. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll say what I think is that a lot of buyers have been spoiled, right? And the significant discounts of an as-is property might not even be there anymore also, just because our prices have been floated so much. It's not like everything that we've been through over the last few years has pushed down on prices tremendously. And in fact, they're about the same
yeah.
in most price points and in most areas, with the exception of the outliers. So I don't know if that answers your question at all, but I hope that people would think it's better to own something in a good area and maybe fix it up as I go, or update it, or spend a little bit of money on it, rather than, well, my expectation is going to be quartzite countertops and a completely renovated property and all of these updates that I have been pinning and putting on Instagram. But I don't know. I think that there's a mix of agents having to have these deep conversations with buyers to set their expectations, and also maybe a little bit of the buyers fearing like, is this the right time to buy? Should I buy something that needs some work? So it's a mix, I think.
Yeah. It's interesting because actually I'm one of those guys that has always a little bit kind of bought low, sold high. Like through my whole career, I've just never decided like, I'm going to go buy a retail. I might have to stay in this other house a little bit longer to buy the next house and fix it up, or buy the next lot and build the house, just so I'm creating value in the next one.
You said the word that came to my mind exactly is value. The house that I live in now, every other house that I've owned or bought, it just is like, it's always value driven. But again, I think that because we're in the industry, it's a little bit easier for us to have that concept of it and also get it done. Whereas a lot of buyers, again, between like handling contractors or maybe having access to that network or the funds and not rolling it into the mortgage, might be a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I mean, I'd really encourage first-time home buyers to think of buying what seems like maybe not the prettiest house, but in a great area, and updating it as you go, or eventually putting the funds together for a renovation and doing some forced equity.
Yeah. It's just like you said, it's not the interest rates haven't gone down. So, but you would think that if oversupply happened, prices would come down. So I feel like just creating that value gets that little bit of buffer to make sure that if it does come down, you're not losing money. You may just be breaking even, but you're not losing money. So
you still need a place to stay.
Yeah.
So there is that. What do you think? If Cory comes on here real quick, what do you think about the Warren Buffett buy into Taylor Morrison? It was like a $9 billion buyout.
Actually, when did that happen? I didn't actually see it because I've been kind of off for the last week.
Yeah, no, in the last couple weeks, yeah. So it felt right in line when you were out of town.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's always kind of ahead of the curve, right? And Taylor Morrison, builders aren't crushing it right now, right? So they're definitely, we could probably talk to this about Cory because there's lots of builders in Oklahoma City, but and we can talk about the Oklahoma City market too, but I don't know that a lot of builders, obviously a lot of builders in Phoenix are not giving massive discounts, but massive buy downs and really good rates. So
yeah, because he bought. Hey, Cory.
Hey, what's going on, Tracy? What's up, Chris?
How you doing?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Oh,
fantastic. Glad you're here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I'll give you a little background. I've known Cory, it's got to be coming up on 10 years. I went into the CG Mastermind in like 2017, so it's 2026, so 9 years. Cory was like one of the original members. I think like the first like 10 guys in the room. And you don't show up too often, maybe once a year now. But I still see Cory at the Mastermind. We started at a business that had 100% funding nationwide, which we still do a little bit. We never got the traction we thought, but we still get loan requests here and there.
Yeah,
but he does some high level business coaching, but he still, even doing some high level business coaching, he still has a national wholesale. It's not, he doesn't call it novations, retail buyer program, which is just I know it's like novations are the word like Coke. Everybody understands it, and he just has he has a version of it that's a little bit safer, a little bit more. The sellers sign everything, they see everything, and so there is no question on if the seller didn't know what was going on. So, but he's doing national advertising and closing deals nationally. So thanks for jumping on, Cory.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Chris. It's always good to hang out with you and have a chat with you. Always impressed with all the things you've got going on.
So how's it going? How's the the market's slower, so it's kind of one of the trending things with novations and retail buyer program. I'm just using the word novation because it's like I said, it's like the Coke. It's kind of that version of the product that people understand, but the markets aren't moving real fast. Or is there, are there certain markets that you're just crushing it in, or Phoenix is obviously sluggish. So
yeah, Phoenix is sluggish. We just did a deal out there. I bring you a bunch of deals, when they come in to play over there, Chris. So we're, it basically comes down to where you're targeting to find the best deals. And the Midwest and the South for us is still some of those better pockets where we can basically acquire a deal for still under $2,000 to $3,000, and still be upwards of 19 to 21,000 on our average kind of rip out there. And then you start going to East Coast, West Coast, things with mountains, oceans, things like that, your cost per deal goes up about double, sometimes triple. But also your profit can be significantly higher too, but it's just more risk involved. And so, we just find that a lot of the Midwest and South deals tend to move a lot faster than some of those other deals, and some of those deals that we get out like San Diego, or even on the other side in New York, which I hate doing any kind of deal in attorney states because they take forever. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to being smart on where your resale number is going to be. And you got to buy cheaper right now. You got to buy deeper right now. You cannot buy the same way that you did 2 or 3 years ago. It doesn't work. And so, we're getting to a place where we feel like we're getting pretty good at where we know we need to buy it. So when we turn around to resell it, we can still make what our projected is or over.
And what's your nationwide projection? Is it in the mid 20s?
Yeah, it's like around 22,000. And then with our RBP, which is what's your tenant retail buyer program. And really the difference between novations and RBP is, as novations, oftentimes you open title as the buyer and then you novate out to a new buyer. For us, we don't open title as a buyer at all. So we open the title as the RBP manager, and we have what's called a blanket authorization that allows us to have communications with the title back and forth, but we aren't signing the listing agreements. We aren't signing any purchase and sale agreements on that retail side. And any of our kind of documents that we have between the seller is kind of like a client privilege, like an attorney would have. So none of that is ever, mentioned. So we just basically are the RBP manager, and then we do what's called the receipt method. We invoice title, and it's just a lot cleaner for us. It also makes, from what we're told from title companies, a lot more properties close, because at closing, a lot of novation deals explode. And, that's just not something that we've seen in RBP really at all, or from a lot of the students that learn that. Sean Terry and I Sean Terry helped me promote that, Chris, and we did several millions of dollars in sales, and then with our students doing a lot of the deals in RBP, they're doing millions of dollars. And they've also told us that it's just been a lot easier transition than what they've had experience on. Some of them doing novations before, and some of them never doing a novation.
So how did you make the leap, and how do you help your students make the leap from, say, I'm a wholesaler in Phoenix, it's sluggish. and I want to get into a new market. It seems like it's doing quite well. I see these guys on Instagram or I hear in these masterminds or whatever. But what I see from, a perspective of someone that doesn't do nationwide is that the analysis by paralysis and all the intricacies of the transaction type, like specific to what you guys are saying, becomes the black hole of never getting past the gap of I work here, now I'm opening up different markets. What's a distilled way that you can offer of how you help your students get there?
Sure, Tracy. So bottom line is, when you work with myself or someone that does nationwide, I'm going to help you avoid a lot of landmines that I went through. And it cost me a lot of money, 6 figures plus on learning the ins and outs of what not to do, what to do whenever you're, buying. I'm in Oklahoma, right? And I'm closing deals in Alaska. We just closed a deal of 10 acres in Alaska, right? Like that doesn't happen unless, you've had some bumps and bruises along the way, learning what to do, what not to do. So that's one of the biggest things is having someone to kind of hold your hand and walk you through where not to step to blow up and to spend multiple zeros behind expenses. But on the other side of it, it's also important to realize what your goal is. And sometimes I will tell people, listen, it's probably smarter for you to stay where you are. We'll go through and we'll do a pretty deep dive in their market. Oftentimes people want to go wider because it's kind of they think, oh, wow, there's too competitive here. I know all the wholesalers, whatever it is. And oftentimes that's just not the truth. It's just a lie. They need to dig deeper and look and see what the data tells them. I know Chris is really big on the data too. It's like, what's the data really tell you? And when you get to that point, that's when you can start to put together a plan, Tracy, on what the result that person wants to achieve. And sometimes it's just doubling their money. Some people that come to us and like they're just making 100,000, they want to make 200,000 a year. Other people are making 50,000, they want to make $1 million a year and whatever. And it comes down to how much do you have for your resources to be able to, what I call hang time. How much hang time do you have, right? It's kind of like your cash flow conversion cycle of whenever you're kind of thinking this thing through. You can't think that you're going to make this happen in 3 months, 6 months. It's going to take a dedication, right? And it's going to take you running it like a business. And so first off, I don't work with people that just put their toe in the water. So that's the other thing is you're going to have to be committed. If you're not committed, then it's probably not the best move for you because you're going to have some things that are not going to work. We're going to be testing a few things, but hopefully we're going to avoid all the big landmines and maybe just hit a couple of little traps along the way. But that's the big thing. It's really figuring out what's the result that they want. How much resources do they have? What's their hang time and what kind of expectations that they have realistically to be able to, reach that place where they want to be.
Right. And I can't imagine this is the environment to be able to make mistakes like you could have 5 years ago and you get floated. I would imagine you'd have to be really dialed in. Like you said, there might be a couple bumps that's going to happen regardless versus I can make a 5 or 6 figure mistake and get floated on the next few or whatever it is because the market keeps going up.
Right. And the market makes a lot of people look like a genius. Right. So it's timing, you gotta know your business. It isn't like you can just throw an ad up there and, someone's going to tell you how, like those days are kind of over. Like you have to be a professional. You got to know your business. You got to know KPIs. You got to understand what is it going to look like realistically. Even if you get a deal under contract, Tracy, it doesn't mean it's going to close. People are, I got this many deals. It doesn't matter. How many deals did you get that are closed, right? That's when profit is realized. And I get frustrated about people. I got this many deals under contract. Who cares? You might lose all of them, right? Because especially when you're doing nationwide, title issues are some of the big challenges that you hit, right? Because you're not there. You can't kick you're taking the word of sellers, which almost all of them are liars, or you assume they're all guilty until proven innocent. And, then you're dealing with some other, title things, issues. Maybe you're if you don't have a title company that's kind of servicing where you want to be, you're kind of learning that title agent and how their process is. And if it's going to be an abstract state, it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks. Well, now you can't close in time. So you got to figure out all these different things. But once you start to take those things in consideration, right, it's just all now a part of the process. It's not something that's surprising you versus, it's something that can throw you off your game.
There's a couple of things that you've mentioned that keep standing out to me. One was what Chris had mentioned about transparency, right? And then the topic du jour that really comes to mind as I hear you talk more is how wholesaling has changed even in the last few years. Again, as someone that doesn't do wholesaling, I'd be really interested to see what you've seen from a perspective of all these wholesaling, groups and ads to like get into it. It's easier to get into that side of the business, and then actually how it is real world boots on the ground these days and what you see from a global perspective.
Sure. So it's really getting a lot harder. I mean, one of the reasons that Chris and I started our takedown funding was because of the regulations that were coming with wholesaling. And, it seemed like it was just a make sense idea. There's going to be more people, more wholesalers that are going to need cash because they're not going to be able to assign these deals the way that they normally could. Or having challenges potentially on double close or whatever it is with wet funds and dry funds. So we wanted to have a solution for them, and it is a good solution, and we've helped some make some good money on it. But the regulations are, just getting tighter and tighter, Tracy, on wholesaling. And to be candid, I like working with agents. I think they can be really helpful. Some of them are really great. Some of them are extremely lazy and don't do anything. But the bottom line, NAR hates wholesalers, right? They feel like we're stealing their commissions. We're the ones taking grandma's house and stealing equity, and we don't care about anything besides the money. We're throwing the cash up and the Bentleys and all this other BS stuff that is a bad representation of what real businesses, much less real wholesaling businesses, should be. They should have ethics. They should work with, with a procedure and a process and actually treat it like a business, not just a side project, right? There's a lot of hustlers. There's a lot of house hustlers, Tracy.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of them that run a business like a business.
Right.
And when that's the difference, right? And then you're unfortunately kind of thrown into the mix with the bad car salesman and the good car. You still got to buy a car, but you don't. Who do you deal with, right? And that's unfortunate. But so there's the perception of what's going on about wholesaling is now getting harder and worse, right? Because of NAR and that big legal dispute happening. Now they're trying to find ways to get more cash back after they lost all of that. And so now, wholesalers are kind of an easy target to pick on. And I think that they're just, that's just kind of the target right now is from NAR is dealing with wholesalers. Then you've got the legal side, the regulations that these laws, these bills that are passing on what you can do, what you can't do, what you have to disclose. Before, you could just get a property under contract, go assign it, find a buyer. You can kind of market it where you want to. Hey, I got this property, it's off market. Now you got to be really careful on which states or which areas that you are promoting in. Sometimes you can't market it, quote, to the public. You have to do a private network. And then sometimes you can't even, you have to give a disclosure period on how long someone can kind of cancel, like a lemon law in a way where they have to, they get 2 days or 5 days or whatever it is to cancel. And so all these things are just getting harder and harder for kind of the wholesaler to come in and just, get a property and sling it, right? We call it house slinging. So that's getting harder. But what on the other side, let's look at the other side too. The other side is it's actually snuffing out. It's filtering out all the bad.
I was just about to say,
right. It's filtering out all the bad actors, and it's kind of helping the cream rise to the top, if you will, on, do you have ethics? What's your are you on Better Business Bureau, whether you believe it's good or not? Is that perception there for you? Do you have testimonials? And they're not just written, but they're video testimonials of people actually saying they had great experiences with you. What you have to kind of take it to that next level. Like on our certainly on our website, I'm very, very like proud of our website because it takes a lot to get a business ran to where people are actually saying great things about you. We're getting really good reviews, from customers and getting great, getting great testimonials or great reviews from customers. So the guy that's just house slinging, Tracy, he doesn't care about that. He just wants to make the money as fast as humanly possible. He doesn't care about all that other stuff. So a lot of that stuff is kind of, making some of those people go away, which, I'm happy about.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
with all with how many states are you just 50 states or do you
31 states. We've closed in 31 states successfully. There's some states that we just won't close in, like Hawaii, because you have to be half Hawaiian to be a buyer on some of these places. You don't actually buy the property. You don't own it. It's like the Hawaiian Land Association, if you will, like has it. And so you lease it for 100 years and then the buyer just can't come in. So it's just a weird thing over there. Just certain places that we really like to avoid. West Virginia is one that's just hard to deal with some of the stuff out there. Louisiana is really hard. Mississippi's it's gotten harder. South Carolina is getting really hard because of all the regulation. But so there's kind of places where it's like the easy, like the low hanging fruit versus some of the other places that, why you want to go through the brain damage if you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
And then we're also using the AI to give us some really predictable markets, not just on these states and easier on the regulation, but also on what are the neighborhoods, what are the properties that are selling in these certain areas that have a high likelihood of, for us to be able to get cash buyers or just properties that are gentrifying areas, properties that are just in good areas for rehab and fix and flip. So for those RBPs are really perfect for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you just using like you get something under contract and you dive into that one? Before you start marketing it on the dispo side, you're just like, all right, let me dive into some Claude or ChatGPT and see if it can get me a better description of how I should dispo this one versus just throwing it out there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you all heard that, you make the money when you buy it, but I mean, true, but you realize your profit when you sell it. And so at the end of the day, it may feel good that you made this phantom equity when you buy it, but you got to be able to sell it, right? And so we put a big emphasis on what's these properties actually selling for, and the ones that are that are pending right now, and the ones that are selling, right? The ones that have sold, the ones that are pending. So we put a big emphasis on that, not just what these quote just a sold comp. We look at the ones that are pending as well, and what's active, as well. We definitely know if we're going to be selling to a cash buyer over there, if it doesn't qualify. Well, we have like qualifications on RBP, and it's probably the same thing on novations, but not all properties will qualify, right? You got to be able to get a loan on the property. You can't just, So for those other properties that we put in a category, we have 3 categories: pretty, yucky, and scary. So yucky and scary properties are not really going to be the ones that qualify for our RBP program. So those, we know we're going to be looking at a cash buyer, and we just got to make sure that we're not buying that, Chris, the same way that we're buying those RBPs. We got to buy them deeper. We got to have a bigger reason why that we can buy them deeper. And we got to figure out the markets that we're going to be selling to. Is it going to be most likely an out-of-state buyer, or is it going to be a landlord buyer, or a fix and flipper? So, there is a process that we go through whenever we are looking at a property to buy it and then turn around and dispo it. There's a process of thinking that we go through before we send them a contract.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing too is how there's this convergence of old school foundational things about business, like run it like a business. I know it's crazy for us to think, but this actually is a business, not just a slinging deals kind of thing, and hope you make $1 million a year, as well as integrating things like procedures and different outputs on evaluation and integrating AI as well. So how do you see that evolving over the next couple of years as far as getting more streamlined with your business and your systems, and how that's going to help your business as things change? Because for those of us that have been in the business as long as each of us have, it's like things just get more different, but some things stay foundational. So what do you predict over the next few years for wholesaling?
Sure. I think AI is a disruptor and it's going to continue to disrupt. I don't think AI is going to take your business. I think people that someone that learns AI is going to take your business. So you've got to engage with AI. It's not going away. You might think you're Campbell's soup and you're just invincible, but at the end of the day, this is not the case. AI is here for. I used to think that a seller isn't going to talk. So let's say this. In Phoenix, we used to pay $350, $400 for a lead. Okay. Do I want to give AI this lead that I just paid $400 for? Or do I want to give it to a live person? Right. Well, before I just say I want to give it to a live person, that way they're going to feel important. They're going to feel listened to, heard, and all these other things. I'm totally learning some things new now. We are letting AI talk to sellers. They are answering questions. We are being upfront to them that we are an AI assistant, right? So they don't have any expectations that they're talking to a real person, but that AI person, as they start to engage and they're asking good questions, almost the seller forgets they're talking to AI. That's what's crazy, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can get them to a point where it's like, okay, we're ready to start talking about, what an offer may look like. Then we can do, okay, great. Let me get a live transfer. Let me get our Bobby, our acquisition manager. Let me see he's available or whatever. Right. But I think sooner or later, they're going to be probably like, okay, let me transfer you to
the head robot.
That's an AI person too. And now there's going to be AI negotiations. But that AI is definitely, and here's one of the things interesting. It's because it's speed to lead, Tracy. Even if you say, well, you have 10 leads and you're the type of person that's like, I don't believe in AI. I'm just going to have, just real person, real conversations, my heart, shake my hand, kind of old school way of thinking, which I'm a proponent from, certainly being in Oklahoma where I'd like, yes, your word's your bond. And you have these old school kind of ideas of no one's going to talk to, quote, a robot or AI or all these other things. But there's the other side of it too, that speed to lead, the fact that those other people, those 10 leads, it might take them a couple hours sometimes a day. I mean, I've heard people sometimes getting back somebody a lead in a day because they're just too busy, or maybe at least an hour or two. Whenever my AI is getting back to you within the first 60 seconds, right? Like that's a big difference. You can go through a lot of those, right? And like getting back to a person that fast to be able to get just an idea if they raise their hand, if they're interested in an offer, is a big deal, right? And so speed to lead on AI is really a game changer. And I think it's going to come down to more of a volume game. People are going to start understanding that you're going to have a lot of leads. And yeah, some of them, they may have not have responded. They may have responded to you differently if they didn't talk to an AI or weren't first approached with AI. But you're also going to get a whole lot more people engaged, just from the volume of those, from the speed to lead that these other people are just not getting to. And then as soon as they get off the phone, Tracy, they're calling somebody else. They're calling Chris. They're calling you. They're calling somebody else as soon as they get off the phone, right? And you don't even have a chance. By the time you call them back, a live person, they've already sold to somebody else, versus a AI can actually engage, can actually get their information, can actually build some mini rapport, and then even have a chance to do a live transfer depending on that level of rapport that's built. You can build things in like a hot lead or whatever, and the AI recognizes it. So I think the AI is going to be the future of our business. I think it's a completely disruptor, and if you're not engaging in it and you're not really looking at it seriously, you may not have a business in a few years.
Sure. And when you look at adaptation and acceptance too, I mean, it's like anywhere you go in public, you see little kids talking to whatever LLM of choice. I'll just use Chat GPT because it's the most widely known, but grandmas are using it too. And it just seems like once grandmas have started, hey, can you bring up this recipe for me? Or how do I do this? It's like they've generally accepted, even if they don't really understand it. So I see it from a perspective of, regardless of if it's real estate or recipes, that people are now comfortable with the expectation that they go online and look something, the AI answer is first going to be there. They need a quick answer. They type it or say it into an LLM. So I think that that's something that people need to embrace. You can fight it all you want, but to your point, if you're not doing that, how the heck are you going to compete? And I think to your point, you're just not going to be able to as much.
It's going to be really hard whether you like Elon Musk or not, but he was saying like every 3 or 4 months, the rate of it's not just it's a hockey stick of what's happening right now with the rate of AI and how the intelligence is getting general intelligence and super intelligence. It's getting to a place where it's becoming very, very difficult. I was watching this thing on YouTube that just came across, like sometimes you're watching like a real estate thing and then like an ad comes on and it was this YouTube thing and it was this guy that was talking and I was like, this guy's pretty interesting. And he was all AI. The guy was completely AI and I could not tell the difference that guy was AI. And I was thinking, wow, this is where things are really going is people creating these kind of avatars and duplications of their self or their processes, with AI and effectively being able to scale, a lot. Is it going to have challenges? Sure. It's going to have its challenges, but I think you're going to see a lot more benefit versus the challenge when someone really just focuses on. I think Elon's also said like, it was Elon or somebody else that said like, it's Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban said, I think we'll see in our lifetime the first billionaire that's a one person just using AI.
I remember that.
That's just hard to think about it, right? But think about it now. Even saying the word billionaire, it's still impressive, but it's not quite as impressive as it was now, like 3 or 4 years ago. I know it's still impressive when you really think about how hard it is to actually become that. But now when we're starting to hear this term billionaire, it's not, it's like trillionaire is like the new thing now, right? It's like, now the next thing is going to be trillionaire. And so I just think it's going to be easier for people to make money, scale businesses, and, scale their team, things like that when they use AI as one of their disruptor tools.
Yeah. But have you really looked at how big of a difference a billionaire, one or two billionaire to a trillionaire?
Yeah.
It's monster.
It's almost mind-numbing. You can't, it's hard. It's difficult to actually think of the concept. Like when you see it visually, it's insane.
It's crazy. I even from 1 million to 1 billion, to a trip, it's insane. But I was going to say something with that people think, I think there's a post, I made a post a few days ago. It wasn't my post, so I reposted it, but it was really good. And basically the concept was people think that Elon Musk became the first trillionaire and he was like, he should just feed the world because if he has enough money to do, he could just feed every single person. And people don't realize like none of that money's pretty much real. It's like almost all stock.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you could just go in and I have liquid $1 trillion, So all these guys, they get all this big money, but most of it's just, it's not liquid.
Yeah. Well, Cory, we appreciate you jumping on. This is usually just a half-hour conversation, and
Tracy's too engaging. She asks too many good questions.
Hey, man, this could be another hour. I think there's so much that we could get into.
That's why I recruited her because she's got a lot of good questions.
She's got really good questions.
I'm curious.
The
people want the answers.
Well, I could spend an hour talking to you, Chris. I always call Chris the human calculator, man. Like
yes.
He's the human MLS. He's got it all in his head, man.
Yeah.
So
Cory, how do I'm sure people are going to be emailing Chris and asking him, how do I find out about this guy? I want more information. How do people find you?
Yeah, I just finished our website, CoryBoatright.com. Go check it out, take a look at it, see what you think. It's CoryBoatright. So you can find out a little bit about, you know, who I am, some of my experiences, and then with the real estate coaching, consulting, there's a little application on there. You know, I ask a couple of questions just to see if it's the right fit. Not everybody's the right fit, and that's okay, you know. But you know, the people that I do want to work with, and it's really for an intention, is because I actually do believe I can help them. There's some people that'll just take your money and say, you know, let's go on the journey. If I don't believe I can actually help you, I'm not taking a red cent from you.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we appreciate you jumping on, as always.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Tracy.
Hey, thanks for watching that episode. And this is the start of your real estate journey. There's over 100 episodes and a bunch of playlists. And please hit subscribe before you move on to the next video.